Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. We're going to be talking about speech, and more specifically, that means Speech Directory or Auto Attendant, as well as Speech Personal Assistant. We have Mr. Dick Reddy going to present today. He's one of our Senior Solutions Architects. And before he gets us started, I'll just let you know a couple of quick things. First of all, we will make these slides available to you if you're interested in reviewing them at a later time, as well as we're recording. So we'll send you a link to both of those within a day or two. So look for a follow-up email from us. And in addition, if you've joined us before, we always have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So you're welcome to type your questions in at any time, and we'll open it up for questions. I'll have those queued up for Dick at that time once he gets to the end of the slides. So with that, I will let Dick go ahead and get us started.
Well, thanks, Anne. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're located, to everyone. This webinar is a real fun one to do for me. I really enjoy talking about speech because when speech applications are done well, we've all experienced speech applications that aren't done well, and they just frustrate us. When a speech application is done well, it really makes our life easier. Not only our life does it make easier, but you within your organizations and in conjunction with your customers, the people with whom you do business, it can make their life a lot easier as well. So we're going to talk about some of the things that we do, how we do them on our solutions. And hopefully you'll find some things in here today that you will kind of make you cock your head a little bit and say, yeah, that's something that we could really use in our organization. First things first, though, we wanted to inform those that are not aware already that a couple months ago, OpenText acquired XMedius. We are now part of the OpenText family, and we couldn't be more excited about it. OpenText has a tremendous reputation throughout the world as a solutions provider for information and data management. They are rated extraordinarily high in the world in that, about a $3 billion company, very strong cash reserves, hundreds of thousands of customers around the world, and users, millions of users around the world that utilize OpenText technology. And we're very excited to be a part of that group, and we are looking forward to integrating into take the XM Connect system, which is what we're going to be talking about today, and integrating that into many of the other technologies offered by OpenText. It really provides a good environment for our solution. So, but speech, it is much easier to do things with speech, again, with a well-developed and well-designed interface. Speech just makes it easier to do. We all see people walking around talking to their cell phones. You know, Siri, show me the latest whatever. Siri, show me directions to get to this address. It just really makes life a lot easier. We've all interfaced with them, calling airlines, banks, call centers, things like that, and allows us to very quickly and naturally to get to the information that we need to accomplish the tasks that we have before us on that telephone call. Unfortunately, there's been some bad news for many organizations out there, and that's the fact that Nuance, which had really a widely recognized and widely used speech attendant application, they made an announcement that they are discontinuing that. End of support is coming very just right around the corner. And the organizations that have the Nuance solution have to find something else to do. They have to find another solution to take the place of the Nuance speech attendant. Now, it's important to note here, the speech attendant is an application that Nuance developed that rides above their speech recognition engine. They are not discontinuing the speech recognition engine. It is still under active development and is widely considered to be the best speech recognition engine around. There's no one that is considered to rival them when it comes to speech recognition technologies. They are not discontinuing the development of that engine. The development of that engine will continue to go forward. What is being stopped in development and discontinued as a product is the application that rides on top of that of the speech attendant and open speech attendant applications. So the good news, though, is we're here to take care of you. XM Connect it's a very easy to use, powerful replacement for the Nuance speech attendant. And the good news is the speech recognition that you're used to will continue on because we are built on top of that same Nuance speech recognition engine that the speech attendant was on. We work in any environment, so it really doesn't matter what you're using as your telephony environment, how you update that database, whether you do it manually, whether there's automated processes involved to do it. We will work and accommodate your environment very easily and very quickly. And we've been doing this for a long time. We've nearly 40 years now of developing automated attendant applications, speech recognition since the mid 90s, personal assistance almost as long as that. We're going to touch on each one of these things as we go through this. And speech recognition isn't something that we just dedicate to a specific application. We don't just have a speech auto attendant. Speech really has woven its way through many of the various aspects of the XM Connect system. And as many of you know, if you've attended one of our previous webinars or you have our solution, XM Connect is a multi-application solution to deploy within your environment. It supports applications like voicemail, unified messaging, mobility. We're going to talk about some of those mobility applications here in just a while and how speech can assist in those. And even the XM Connect platform could be licensed for call center and broadcast notification features, things like that. So you're not just purchasing a single purpose system like you really had to do with the speech attendant from Nuance. It did one thing. It did it pretty well, but it only did that one thing, the speech attendant. We do a number of things, and the speech application has been woven into many of those applications within the XM Connect system. So let's get started with the first one, Automated Attendant Speech Directory application. So the Automated Attendant functions in XM Connect are extremely robust. We've been continually developing this application since 1982, the longest continually developed application of its kind in the industry by decades, quite frankly. And we don't get rid of features, standard features on XM Connect. We just keep adding additional capabilities to it. So what you'll find is a very robust automated attendant application just all by itself, and then layering speech on top of that provides an additional interface that makes it just easier to use for your callers calling in to be able to navigate through the system. They don't have to worry about dialing touch tones to it through natural phrases, fully programmable, normal phrases that they would use. The same as if they were talking to a person, they can easily navigate through the system to get to where they want to go, get the information that they need very quickly and easily. Now, many of the organizations that we talk to, they may be multiple location, multiple facilities, multiple departments within the organization that have different operating hours, different schedules, different needs. And the automated attendant scheduling available within XM Connect is unrivaled in its flexibility. You can set up different schedules for each different department, location, each call processing auto attendant need that you have. It can have its own individual schedule set up. It automatically makes adjustments for predefined closures, things like holidays, plant closures, things like that, things that are pre-planned, you know when they're going to be, you enter them in the system, and it's really kind of a program it and forget it. It automatically makes adjustments from year to year. For example, Christmas Day doesn't always fall on the same day of the week. What happens if it falls on a Saturday? Do you observe it on the previous Friday? Do you observe it on the following Monday? Do you observe it some other day? Those normal closures are automatically handled, along with the ability to take care of emergency situations, unexpected situations, to be able to override what is currently scheduled with a different greeting, different options presented to the callers, and that's can be manually enabled very quickly and easily through any number of different interfaces, including calling in over the telephone by the administrator, a simple web browser interface. All of those can easily make changes to that if necessary. You wake up one morning and there's 3 feet of snow on the ground, or an ice storm's come through, and the office is going to be closed today. You grab your tablet, log in quickly via the browser, make that change, and you're done. And now a new greeting is being presented to the callers, and new calling options that wouldn't be there normally. So very flexible scheduling of the automated attendant, and a whole host of additional features that make it so much easier for callers to navigate through. Things like handling aliases. You may have a Robert Smith, your medical facility, for example, and there's a Robert Smith that works there. There may be 3 Robert Smiths that work there. Duplicate name disambiguation. When the system calls in, someone calls in and says Robert Smith, system can come back and say, please say Robert Smith accounting, Robert Smith customer service, or Robert Smith surgery. And aliases are available for users, unlimited number of aliases. So maybe the person in the surgical department is Dr. Robert Smith. And that could be one of their aliases, Dr. Robert Smith. So when a caller calls in and says Dr. Robert Smith, we don't have to do the disambiguation because the other 2 don't have doctor in their title. And we'll just process the call. So all of these various tools that are available to make it easy for callers to get from point A to point B, segregating of directories, automatic synchronization of that directory with external sources such as Active Directory, an HR department's program that they use for personnel management, things like that are all easy to be used within this. So let's take a look at an example of an automated attendant call. You know, calling in here says, thank you for calling at any time during this greeting. You can simply say the name of the person or the name of the department you wish to reach. For a list of departments, please say options. And this can say anything and be prompting the caller to say anything. It doesn't have to be just names. As you can see, it can be departments. It could be any number of different things that you want to present to the caller, and they can respond with speech commands. Now, a standard automated attendant, the thing that you're used to today with your Nuance speech attendant, if you've got it, is saying the name, and we transfer the call, and it transfers the call and it goes out. And we can certainly be set up to do that as well. Someone says John Tyler, and boom, we transfer the call, and the call just heads out to try and find John Tyler, ring his telephone. However, we've expanded that functionality and the options that are available that you can deploy very quickly and easily. For example, let's take this same call, and without this, what we're talking about so far does not require any additional licensing. We can do call screening, where we ask who's calling, and then when the caller, when the person being called, when John picks up the phone, we can announce you have a call from Mark Reed. To accept, press 1. To reject, press 9. Or say accept call, reject call, allowing them to know who's calling, prioritize their tasks. Maybe sometimes the work you're doing right now takes a higher priority than the call that's interrupting it. Not that the call's unimportant, but what you're doing, maybe you're working on a report that has to get out at the top of the hour. And talking to Mark Reed is going to take a while. You know that. You can reject the call, send it back to voicemail, and Mark will leave you a message and be on his way. An outside call, we extended even to the outside callers as well. So we just got that call. He said he wanted to talk to John Tyler. One moment, please. We ring John's phone, doesn't answer, comes back, and we will prompt them for speech commands. Speech commands don't just end at the automated attendant. They can continue to be offered to the callers even after they forward into your mailbox. So, for example, please say John's not available. Please say leave a message. Try another person. Leave a message. They record their message. After they record their message, again, we can prompt them with simple, very natural, very intuitive speech commands on what to do at that point. Please say send, review, re-record, allowing them to easily make commands to do what they want to do and get on their way very quickly and easily. Now, we talked about the call screening option that's available at no additional cost. We talked about that in the previous slides here. But for people that are more mobile, they need that call screening, but they need a lot of additional other features as well in order to be able to stay connected. And that's why we've developed the personal assistant license module for the system. And you don't have to license everybody for this. And we rarely ever see a customer purchase personal assistant licenses for all of their users. Someone that sits at their desk from 8 to 5 really doesn't need this type of functionality. But for your mobile users, there's a tremendous amount of functionality that's available to them to be able to get access to the information they need. So as they're traveling from place to place, they can call into their mailbox and with simple, intuitive speech commands, be able to place telephone calls, access their contacts to place calls, to send messages, access and interact with their calendar. We'll look at a number of these things here in just a minute. But being able to navigate through, not just access their messages, but being able to interact with other key tools, have those at their disposal to be able to to do what they need to do and be productive and be safe. Quite frankly, somebody driving in a car, you do not want them picking up their cell phone and pushing buttons on their cell phone, holding it up to their ear, back again, back and forth. I mean, that's illegal most places you go anyhow, but far beyond the legality of it is it's just unsafe. And somebody doing that repeatedly is going to have an accident sometime, and you want to prevent that. And speech enabling their access to the information that they need. Their phone beeps, they have a new message, they can easily tap and get that message, completely hands free. So call handling, you know, uh, with most speech attendants, this is true with the Nuance speech attendant and really most any other speech attendant you might look at. Um, this is the continuation of the call we had before, where the system has started to transfer the call. Generally, when you pick up the phone and answer it, you're talking to the person that was calling. So in the previous case, Mark Reed was calling for John Tyler. When John answers the phone, he's talking to Mark. We talked a little bit about the call screening, but the personal assistant not only gives the accept and reject options for the person receiving the call, but there's a number of different options that are available as well. So they can say accept call or reject call, just like we talked about before. But they have other options. They can transfer the call to someone else or to one of their other telephone devices. One of the ones that has been extraordinarily helpful to many people, myself included, is the acknowledge feature. Acknowledge allows you to record a message that will be delivered back to the caller. So in this example, John's walking down the hall and his cell phone rings. He answers it. You got a call from Mark Reed. He says acknowledge and says, hey, Mark, I'm walking into a meeting and we'll call you back when I get out in about an hour. Um, he just hangs up and walks into his meeting, and the system goes back to Mark and says, I'm sorry, John Tyler was not available, but recorded a brief message for you, and plays that message back to the caller. And again, all of this is done using simple speech commands, and the caller hears the message and is given the option, again, prompted in speech commands, plays the acknowledgement message and says, would you like to leave a message? Try another person. What would you like to do, essentially, to the caller, all using normal speech commands. Now, John gets out of his meeting and he's checking messages. Again, the user speech interface is great because it allows him, he just pushes the button to get to voicemail on his cell phone as he's walking back to his desk. He can just say, get new messages. And it will, hey, here's a message, an email message from Mark. So Mark, I guess, decided to not leave a message after he got that acknowledgement message, but to send an email to John Tyler. He says, hey, John, I really need to talk to you about this project. Call me back as soon as you can. Well, that's great. John could then hang up from voicemail, access those contacts on his smartphone, or wait till he gets back to his office, open up Outlook, go to his contacts, find Mark's profile, open it up, find the telephone number, reach over to his phone and dial the number. He could do all of that, or as he's walking back to his desk listening to his message, he could simply say call back. It marks one of his contacts. We have a telephone number for him, and the system will be able to then transfer him out to Mark, and they can have their conversation. Personal assistant is a wonderful thing because not only does it do all that, but once they finish their call and hang up, John's right back in his mailbox. So maybe when they talked through it, they said, yeah, we need to get together I'm free all day next Tuesday, Mark says. Why don't you check your calendar and send out a meeting request and invite these other 3 people? Well, Mark can simply say, get my appointments for next Tuesday. After Mark hangs up, John's right back in the middle of his mailbox. He can simply say, get my appointments for next Tuesday, find a hole in his calendar. He can say, create an appointment for next Tuesday at 10 a.m. for 60 minutes. Record an introduction, say the names of the people he wants, could be internal people, could be people from his contacts list, and the system will create a meeting request out of Outlook and Exchange and send that out on his behalf. And he's done that just walking down the hall, talking on his cell phone. Maybe he needs a bit of information. We can also access your contacts to get the various contact information, the email, his email address, Mark's email address, his telephone numbers, business number, mobile number, whatever numbers are associated with his contact card. You have access to that as well through speech commands. So how do you administer all of this? How do you keep all of this straight? Well, we have a number of tools available within XM Connect to allow you to manage the system, to keep your directory straight and in line. We have integrated with two of the main leaders in centralized administration tools, Unimax, their Second Nature product, Starfish provisioning. We have we have integration into Active Directory, synchronization, PowerShell script available that allows on a scheduled basis. It could be on a nightly basis. It could be every 6 hours, whatever schedule is appropriate for you. It can go out and query Active Directory for any changes that have been made to Active Directory and sync those with the database on the XM Connect system, creating new accounts, making changes to new accounts, things like that. Batch editing, creating a simple CSV file and importing it in. And for those environments that have unique needs for administrative tools, we do provide an API for completely custom administrative automation. So if you aren't using Second Nature or Starfish, you don't want to sync with Active Directory, but in our example before, you have an HR program that's used. We can use the API of that along with our API to develop completely custom synchronization routine that can take place. And backups to make sure of the safety of the system. If there's a catastrophic failure of the host that's running the server, it can easily be restored and restored from the backup of the system, so that you can get the system up and going as quickly as possible in the event of a catastrophic failure. Now, we mentioned this before. Does it work in your environment? Well, the short answer is got a pretty good chance of working in your environment. We integrate to almost any PBX or telephony environment that's out there. And you could have a 20-year-old Meridian, Nortel Meridian Release 18 PBX, and we're still going to be able to integrate with that. Most other competitive solutions require you to make upgrades to your PBX to accommodate them. We don't do that. We can integrate to virtually any telephony platform, regardless of its age, using any one of a number of different protocols in order to provide that integration. It doesn't just have to be a SIP connection. We have a number of TDM-based standard digital integrations. And if you have that old PBX and you're going to migrate next year or the year after that to a new PBX, we can integrate simultaneously with multiple PBXs, so that transition is virtually painless for you to do. Or maybe you're an organization that has Avaya PBXs at some location. Some locations, you've got Cisco at a couple different locations. You've got a Mitel system over at some other location, and another location that's using BroadSoft as a cloud solution. You can integrate all of those simultaneously to the same single XM Connect system. So let's take a look at one of our customers real quick that has used our system for tremendous benefit for their users. Navy Pier, a name that's very familiar to many of us. A big attraction, restaurants, theaters, all of that type of stuff. A very well recognized name. And they've been a customer of ours for quite a while and have utilized speech to really help their mobile users using that intelligent call routing that we talked to be able to change what telephone devices are used to extend calls to their mobile users. They're not always just sitting at their desks. Sometimes the cell phone is the best telephone. Sometimes their home phone. Sometimes a phone in a different office. All of that's easily handled with for those mobile users. And one of the things that they found, and we've seen this at a number of our customers, but particularly here at Navy Pier, that's a significant percentage of the calls that were going to the operator there at Navy Pier were calls for people, internal people, just wanting to talk to other internal people, and they didn't want to take the time to look them up in the directory. They simply pick up their phone, dial 0, the operator answers, and they say, "I'd like to speak with Mary Miller," and then the operator would have to transfer them to that. Well, enabling a speech directory, and they've enabled both for internal and external people. But for the internal people, instead of dialing 0 and taking up the time that the operator could be spent interacting with customers of Navy Pier, the employees there can easily get sent to the appropriate telephone device of the person they're trying to reach very quickly and easily. It's really made a big difference in their whole operation. Speech enabling, they've been using DTMF for a long time, but speech enabling those applications has really been a significant benefit to them. So all of that brings us down to why speech good idea for you. Well, it really can make calling much more efficient for your users, your employees, as well as your customers. Being able to allow them to get to where they need to go very quickly, very easily, very intuitively with speech commands, and providing the back end people the tools they need in order to keep all of that up to date and ready to go and accurate. So when someone says Mary Miller that they want to talk to, that we're transferring to the right place, that we're recognizing the correct person. And if Mary Miller has left the organization, being able to handle that appropriately as well. So that's the end of it for today. We're going to open it up now for questions and answers. So we'll turn it back over to Ann and see what we've got in the queue.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Yes, there are 1 or 2 already in here. And if you'd like to submit a question, you can find the Q&A box on your panel there. I think it's somewhere around the top. You can click there. First question, Dick, how about for difficult to pronounce names? Can you still press 0 if it doesn't recognize?
Yeah, so absolutely, you can press 0 at any time to be, transferred out if there's somebody available to take that call. Obviously, in many organizations, you'd want to handle that dial 0 differently during the day versus at nighttime, and we can easily make those adjustments with the scheduling that we talked about before. Plus, the unlimited number of aliases really assists with those difficult to pronounce names, because you can phonetically spell all the correct pronunciations and incorrect pronunciations as well as aliases for a particular individual. to make it much more likely that somebody calling in, regardless of how they pronounce the name, to be able to get to them. And one other aspect of it is we not only support speech recognition in English, we support multilingual speech recognition. And oftentimes, an English speech recognition engine can have a difficult time with French or German or Swedish pronunciations of words and names. And that multilingual capability of speech recognition has been a huge benefit for our customers that may have multicultural uh, use people within the system, as well as wanting to make the menus easy to navigate for people that may be calling in with a French accent, French pronunciations. Those can be very difficult for English only speech recognition engines to handle.
Okay, thanks. Next question. Our internal users are calling in from cell phones now, not desk phone. Are there differences to the interface or the system in that case, or what is the impact?
Yeah, the impact is we don't care what telephone you're calling in from. If you're a user on the system, we can make it so that when someone says your name, even without the personal assistant license, where we can have multiple telephone devices for users, if your main telephone, you're never in the office, you don't even have a PBX extension, you just have the company gives you a cell phone. That's all you have. That can be the main number that we transfer the call to if you're when someone calls in and says your name. And if you're not there, we don't just we can be set up to not just send the call out and forget about it, which is what, for example, the Nuance SpeechAttendant did. It just did a blind transfer, transfers it, forgets about it, and waits for the next call. We can monitor the transfer for selected individuals so that we can sense if they have not answered the call, we can pull the call back. And if the caller, a business caller, wants to leave a message, they're going to leave it in your XM Connect mailbox. They're not going to leave it in your cell phone voicemail, which is a real dead end. Cell phone voicemail is a dead end for business communication. We will pull that call back and put it into your mailbox. And your experience calling in from there to get your messages, to navigate through your mailbox, is just the same as if you picked up a desk phone and did it from there. There's no difference. A telephone call is a telephone call to us, and we can recognize that it's you calling and automatically log you into your mailbox if that's appropriate to do.
Okay. Next question. With the reject call option, what does the caller hear in the prompt?
Yeah, the caller hears, they don't hear, I'm sorry, John Tyler rejected you. What they hear is, I'm sorry, John Tyler is not available. Please say, and it depends on what's enabled for that user, what they hear. So they could hear something as basic and simple as, I'm sorry, John Tyler is not available. Please say, leave a message, try another person, or transfer, or operator. If John is a personal assistant user, one of our mobility licenses is assigned to him and is all programmed. Remember we said he could have multiple telephone devices associated with him. The system could come back and say, I'm sorry, John Tyler is not available. Please say locate, leave a message, try another person. So if I say locate, we're going to try him out at different telephone numbers to see if possibly he's just walked away from his desk, for example, and is reachable on his cell phone. So it really depends on what options are enabled, but the caller is always going to be given the appropriate prompts for that, to at least leave a message, try to reach someone else, or transfer to the operator if an operator is available.
Okay, next question. Within a CP auto attendant, can you have the system understand multiple languages?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's the one we just talked to in answer to the first question, is we do support multilingual speech recognition. And you can have multiple languages. You can have up to 5 different languages enabled on the system, so that if you are serving both English and Spanish communities, and North American Spanish is different from European Spanish, so those are two different language sets we have. Maybe you're a Canadian company and you need to support English and French Canadian. We can do that as well. Those are all both languages. Yeah, I can support up to 5 different languages so that we can easily, more accurately recognize. Because as we said before, an English speech recognition engine will have a very difficult time recognizing many French or German or Spanish or Swedish names that are out there, for example. Whereas if you have one of those language sets installed and we are listening for German, when someone says a German word or a German name, we're going to be able to recognize that much more readily than just an English only engine. So yes, we do.
Okay, it looks like there's one more question in here. Hang on, let me grab it. Sorry, I'm having a problem scrolling. Let's try that again. Okay. Is there an additional cost for the multi-language?
Yeah, each language carries its own license on the system. So when you the initial speech recognition licensing that you add to an XM Connect system enables one language. That doesn't have to be English. It could be, if you are in Quebec, you may just only serve French Canadian speaking individuals. And if that's the case, then you can just buy one license and enable Canadian French language on the system. But each language, if you need to add multiple languages and support French Canadian, English, and Spanish, for example, there would be a licensing associated with each language that you enable on the system. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dick. Okay, well, it looks like that wraps up the questions. So we'll go ahead and close out the webinar. Just want to thank everyone again for taking the time to join us. Thanks, Dick, for all the great content here, as well as the Q&A. I think that was actually more interactive, more questions coming in than we typically get on a webinar. So that's always exciting.
I don't know if that means I was unclear or what.
No, I think it means people were paying attention and you piqued their interest. So no, that's good. If we can, kind of give ourselves the commendation at the end of the webinar, right? Anyway, so we'll go ahead and close it out. You can always reach out to us at info@xmedius.com if you have questions in the future, if you think of something else that you didn't ask. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Look for the email from us in the next day or two with the slides and the recording that I mentioned. And have a great day, everyone. We appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.